Hello everybody, Marty McConnell here. God, I need to shave. Um, so I'm doing something a little different today. Most of my videos are like the off-griddy type stuff, and I'm trying to record more of what I'm doing. I actually might be uploading a video that I already did about the fat wood tonight. But in the meantime, I've had kind of a rough day and had to get the truck fixed. Ugh. And it was not fun because I had to miss work. Um, so I'm just kind of chilling out for the evening. I'm about to cook myself a little soup and pet the kitties for a little while and work on rocket stuff. So I'm putting this all under a separate category on my channel for rockets. That way the people on the rocket forum, if I do something that's kind of cool or want to like tell them what I'm doing, then I can show them one of my videos instead of doing this by some alternate means and setting up a different channel and all this other crap. So yeah, I'm off grid, I'm out here in the wild, but I'm also doing rocket stuff. So I took this guy today. I'll try and superimpose a video of the torture test sort of for this because it's kind of cool. Not a video, but like a still frame picture. I basically stacked this guy up and put 140 pounds of weight on the motor mount to test this. This is for my L1 rocket. So right now I've got it taped off, and I'm going to try to do some epoxy fillets or fillets, however you want to pronounce it. And I'm also going to be coating this three ply birch because it's kind of unstable in its current configuration, and I want to make sure it doesn't fall apart under the stresses of flight. So the stuff, I mean, structurally it's fine, but it just, the pieces are so thin, they chip out easy, and whatever they use to glue these plies together, it's just not really working. So I'm hoping that adding a layer of epoxy over the entire fin will kind of stabilize it and keep it from chipping out. Or if this, comes down and one of these fins hits a rock, like, it'll suffer less damage and it'll be still flyable than other things. So I guess since this is the first video I'm doing on this, I'll kind of introduce you. I actually started this project a couple years ago while I was building the house. I would go back to the apartment in West Plains at night and I would work on rocket stuff. And I actually built what I thought was going to be my L1 rocket. I rolled the paper tube myself. I made everything for that rocket by myself except for the parachute. And it ended up getting crunched sitting in a hot car while I was moving stuff over here while I was moving into the house, and it got pinched by something and it kind of crunched the tube a little bit, so that's pretty much useless at that point. Plus the high heat made some of the paper swell and do some weird things, so I learned a lot by destroying that rocket. And now I'm on to version 2, so this is larger than the original. This is actually a 3-inch mailing tube, and a pretty stout one at that. It's about 1/4 of an inch thick on the wall, so it's pretty tough, and this will hold up to a pounding. The inside of this, these fins have little tabs that run all the way down and connect to the motor mount tube, which is the smaller tube inside there, and that will actually house the motor. And the nose cone I made myself. So if you follow me on Instagram at offgridgecko, then you've probably seen this. Here's kitty number 2, and I'm going to have to get the kitties out of the way before I start gluing, because epoxy is not something I want them to experience and learn from. So this is the nose cone for the rocket, and I basically carved this guy out of the same foam that's on my ceiling. It's 1.5-inch insulating foam. I just glued 3 pieces together, basically clamped them, and inserted a metal rod in the back. And I can't show you the rest of this because it's already all connected together. It's like this is one solid piece. But I used my cordless drill to kind of turn this sort of like a lathe, and it came out pretty awesome. Had one little problem while I was working with it because I had the nose point like down, and I was working on this back fitting and putting a lot of pressure on it to to do different things to try and clamp the glue that's inside here for the electronics payload bay area and use it as a clamp. And I was basically putting all my weight on it, and I cracked the tip, so I had to go back and redo that. That's why it's all shiny, because this is in fresh epoxy coating, and this is basically what I'm going to be doing to the fins right now today, to put a layer on them so that they can benefit from some of this structural stuff too, because this epoxy is pretty tough and it'll take a little bit of a beating versus you know, just naked foam or naked plywood or whatever. So yeah, and this is kind of like my little dream. So this rocket on the plans I have right now is going to be 64 inches tall. I may actually trim that because this tube has nothing done to it other than being trimmed to length and making sure that the ends are stable. So I may go ahead and cut that tube in half. Just depends if I need to shave some weight. My goal is to keep this entire rocket below 1,300 grams so that I can run it on a G motor without having to get a FAA waiver, and I can also building it beefy enough to handle the stresses of high power motor flight so that I can qualify for my level 1 certification. And this will potentially, actually with the load test I got today, it'll be able to handle level 2 rocket engines. So yeah, it's pretty solid little design I came up with myself. It's scratch built. This is all I did order some parts. Like there's some little launch buttons that attach to the tube right here and right here, and those just guided up a rail. I've also got little rockets over there on the wall that I go out and launch when I need a little stress reliever or a break from reality. So this guy's still got to be sanded down, and basically after I finish with this fin block, then all that's left is to basically sand this whole thing down, prime it, paint it, fill in any little gaps or low spots or high spots, you know, and just make this body slick and smooth, and, you know, do all the final prep work to get it ready for launch, so that as soon as this silly coronavirus thing is over and done with and people start launching rockets again, then I can find a club and go and get my certification to fly bigger motors, because rockets just kind of a thing of mine. And that's why I play KSP, and I'm kind of a science nerd anyway, so rockets and telescopes, that's just something that excites me. Yeah. So enough of the introduction. I'm going to go ahead and get to gluing this guy, and I'll show you some footage of that. I may end up screwing it up, I may not. We'll have to wait and see how that turns out. I just got to make sure the kitties are all satisfied with their level of attention they've gotten. That one obviously is. This one seems perfectly savvy, so they ought to leave me be while I'm messing with the nasty epoxy stuff. And I gotta get a fire going tonight too, but yeah, lots of fun things. And then back to work in the morning, hopefully, if I don't have more car trouble. So I hope you enjoy the video. I know this isn't what I normally do, but this is going to be a thing now, because obviously I've invested a lot of time in this, and it is something that I want to share a little bit of. So I know I'm a little late to get started on it, but if you guys like these videos, I probably do a bunch more with like my smaller rockets as I paint them. I've got one of those that's ready for prep and paint, and it's already flown its test flight, so may do a video on that. I don't know, because applying paint is something that people find difficult for some reason. But growing up, my dad is a body mechanic. Yeah, I picked up a thing or two on accident somewhere. I don't really know where, and I'm not an expert on any of this by any means, but it's like an outlet for me for this part of it. Anyways, that's sort of an introduction to this little library or series or whatever YouTube calls them. And so I guess if you have questions, go ahead and ask questions. If you just want to say, hey, cool, that's awesome, leave a comment. If you want to tell me, hey, you're dumb and you should be spending your time in your garden instead of playing with model rocket toys, that's cool too. Whatever you want to say. I'm gonna get started on this before I lose my nerve. Alrighty, timer started. I'm doubling using my camera as a timer for this. This is the 30-minute Z-epoxy, and I'm just mixing it up. You mix it up, it's pretty easy, just equal parts, the hardener and the resin. So, and my goal here is to get this onto here and into this little thing so I can make sort of a little bead. So what a fillet basically is just a nice little smooth section in there that makes a transition between the fin and the rocket body. Makes it easier to paint and smoother all around. And I've done this with wood glue, which is easy, but it does a really piss poor job of filling in these gaps. And so in case you're wondering about the masking tape that's on here, that's there for a reason. It is to keep my glue from extending beyond certain bounds that I don't want it to extend to. Now I mixed up about 16 grams of this stuff, and I'm not sure that's going to be enough to do the job, but it'll definitely be enough to get me started. I'm not trying to make big, huge, pretty fillets, just get that in there. So I'm taking my little stick from the woods and just kind of filling the glue down in that gap and kind of smearing it up onto the fin. And then take this old credit card here and just start working this stuff down and smearing it really thin across the fin, and that should also work it down into that groove down there without spilling any on myself or on the kitties. If you're going to do this, you should be wearing gloves. I'm just not very good at following instructions, so don't do what I do. And that actually came out pretty decently. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so as they say, whoop, that thing is not recording properly. Alright, as they say, 3 out of 4 ain't bad, and this is definitely not going to win any beauty contests, that's for sure. But hopefully this will give a nice sealing layer to protect these. I got 3 of the fins done with fillets. I started on the fillet on this 4th one. Back away. I'm serious. Don't sniff my finger. This is not the kind of glue that you sniff. And I don't know. I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. Just like laying down this stuff on my nose cone. There's a little bit of a trick to it. The credit card helps out a lot. But I am going to pretty much let this guy go as is. I'm pretty sure that it's starting to tack up and harden. So I will be checking on it for the next 20 minutes or so. In case you're wondering, this masking tape on here is basically just to mask off the tube so that these fillets don't go eating down into areas that I don't want. And once all the glue between 2 sections is done, then this tape pretty much becomes worthless. So I'm never going to get that end out. But I can take this. Yeah, if I can get it off the front here. Go ahead and put a rip in that. Rip. Yeah, it's not working for me. Oh well, it may work out sometime here by the end. And I can basically peel this back and the body tube itself is basically, it's like overspill protection basically. If I get some glue on this middle area, then it's going to beat up and it's going to cause problems during the sanding process. So tape is there strictly to prevent that. Since I'm not entirely done, I'm not going to remove most of it yet, but I am going to remove what I can, because otherwise this glue is going to set up on here and it's not going to be good. Actually, I probably will go ahead and remove all of this, and then I'll just retape it before I do the next epoxy set, either tonight or tomorrow sometime. It's getting a little late and I've got to mix me some grog. It's not the primary purpose of my channel. This is just like a subset, but if it interests you, I probably will be doing a lot more. I hope to do a couple launch videos, stuff like that, and I have some big plans for these guys that go way beyond hobby rocketry. But I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford them, but I'm definitely going to be, this is like a lifelong pursuit of mine. I just haven't focused a whole bunch of attention on it lately. So yeah, stick around, subscribe, and check out all my other cool videos. You stopped in anyways. You may as well see some in the house and what I'm doing out here. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.